Anna, it's great to see you today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Happy to be with your community.
Anna, you run a very large YouTube channel, Anna from Ukraine, that discusses a lot of what's going on here on the ground in Ukraine. So tell me, what's your sense of what people are saying and thinking today? Are Ukrainians ready for this war to end? Do they want negotiations with Russia?
People in Ukraine understand and dream to finally end this war that lasts for centuries. For us, this is an existential fight, and we don't want pauses. That's also true. We want to end this war with the complete Russian defeat and freedom for Ukraine. Many people who are in the Ukrainian armed forces, who remain in Ukraine during these challenging times, they say their main task is not to pass over this war to the children, to the next generations. That's why, wanting to end this war, we don't want it to end with negotiations on Russia's terms or Chinese or Brazilian. We don't want it to end with a ceasefire because for Russia, this will only mean years or maybe even months of regrouping, new armament arriving from the North Korea, for example, or something else. While in Ukraine, we will be relaxing. I don't know, people will stop supporting us that actively, sanctions will be lifted, and it will cause to a bigger war, more tragedies. Unfortunately, we very well know that unpunished evil grows. But of course, living in 2.5 years of the full-scale war, people get exhausted, people get tired, people have different levels of, I don't know, things they can accept in their life, adapt, and so on. Mobilization, drafting is always a difficult process. It's never that smooth as we watch it in the movies or elsewhere. If you look back in the history of the First World War or the Second World War, it was not that easy. The first wave of Ukrainian volunteering, when we literally saw huge queues of people who wanted to volunteer to protect Ukraine, was something amazing. And I don't want to boast, but I'm not sure we could witness something similar in many countries around the world. It was amazing. And there were hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Ukrainians who volunteered and who served for 2.5 years already. And in any society, there is a percent of active citizens who go out on the streets if they don't like something, who are ready to protect the country, and those who prefer to be passive, not to take on responsibilities. That's why the level of this, the number of the volunteers ready to join Ukrainian armed forces is a bit lower now. But I hate to see how global media take these stories when someone was avoiding mobilization or trying to escape the commission and represent it as the topic, the situation that is very widespread around in Ukraine when it's just the country. These are cases just like when someone is eaten by a bear, that's on the news. But this does not mean that it's a common trouble in a particular country. Somehow news outlets are not sharing much information about the new brigades, 14 new brigades that were formed in Ukraine during this time.
So tell me, now that Ukraine has received a lot more assistance from the West just in the past couple of months, do you see a renewed vigor and interest in joining the military? How are people feeling now?
With new support and aid arriving, a new wave of motivation comes because it's impossible to win if you don't have what to shoot with. And I'm also happy to see that the Ministry of Defense and all the other responsible structures have changed their communication strategy, have listened to the comments and requirements of the people, and now recruitment goes much better than this like drafting. I mean, like when you come voluntarily, you have more choices. You can choose specialization based on your education, maybe even your talents, and so on. You can even choose a brigade that you want to join because of your background, once again, your location and so on. And that's why more and more people come voluntarily, and that's the best option. But of course, it's never a simple process because it's about war, it's about death, it's about danger. One of the bad things is impossibility to predict when will the war end. So for how long you are living your family, job, and so on. But many new brigades are formed. Luckily, the army is reforming.
So at this point, do you get a sense that people in Ukraine would like to begin negotiations with Russia? And if said negotiations were to begin, do you think that Russia would be honest and sincere in how it dealt with them?
Many people, military leaders, politicians who had to deal with Russia even in the previous centuries love to sum it up with a similar phrase like any agreement you sign with Russia is not worth the paper on which it was signed. And we have lots of proofs. Once again, not only in the 20th century or 21st, but in the 18th and 19th and so on. Recently, a lot of newspapers reported a survey conducted inside Ukraine about a large percent of people, like 45, if I'm not mistaken, who want negotiations with Russia. And it was sensational. But at the same time, they did not report all of the survey, where the majority of people who want negotiations are not ready to compromise. And actually, the survey only shows that Ukrainians are not really good at the understanding what is the essence of negotiation. The majority of us, want negotiations on Ukraine's terms, which is unrealistic at the moment. And unfortunately, I believe that many leaders around the world, in Ukraine, and even those criminals in Russia, are talking about negotiations only because it makes them look better. Like, we have to demonstrate that we are trying to find some peaceful solutions. Another important thing is that we were fighting for 2.5 years to protect our future freedom, the way we want to live, our Euro integration. We do want to become NATO member. And all the things that Russia speaks about, they are very far away from the way we see our future. And of course, no one in Ukraine is ready to give up territories. No one in Ukraine is ready to be neutral, because we clearly understand that if we give up our territories, we become a neutral country, sanctions are lifted. What will stop Russia from continuing this war?
Well, that's really interesting, Anna. But what sort of arguments do people make now about negotiations? What are you hearing?
One of the important arguments that I hear among some Ukrainian intellectuals, YouTubers whom I trust, is that all of these plans, all of these ideas, how we should negotiate with Russia, actually do not include an option where Russia says no to what we all offer to it too. Because once again, Ukraine won't be ready to give up its territories, and you know that Putin also wants Kherson, Zaporizhia regions, which are now under the control of legal Ukrainian government. So there is no need for us to leave and give these territories when we actually want to return back Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea. And Putin says he will only agree if we give up these territories. So what's the solution? So that's why I think that no one and no country is ready for negotiations. And another thing that I hate is that many close the eyes on so many war crimes that were committed by Russia, and they treat Russia and Putin as a legitimate regime, a legitimate president that is negotiable. When for me personally and for millions of Ukrainians, these are criminals, these are terrorists, and you do not negotiate with them. Only after the defeat, let's say, of the Kremlin regime and serious reconstructions within Russia, we can start negotiating. Before that, for me, and once again for millions of Ukrainians, this is non-negotiable.
So, why do you think it is that the Kremlin now is talking so much about negotiations? What do you think that they hope to achieve?
Well, first of all, they have lots of troubles inside Russia, that's for sure. And for example, the Ukrainian strategy to destroy their oil refineries works really well. When we have invented this strategy, many were terrified, even among our friendly countries, that may cause some serious troubles and so on. It causes serious troubles, but for Russia and its export, as one of my viewers beautifully described it, Russia has a dig and sell economy. They are not competitive on the market. They earn most of their money selling natural resources, and actually not the natural resources of the very Russia, but of those poor national republics that are a part of the Russian Federation. And there are 22 apart, like Russia is just one of them. And I'm once again not being a professional economist. I won't quote the numbers precisely, but they have banned the export of oil products, and up to 1/3 of their federal budget is made of this oil and gas money that they earn. And this is a serious hit on their economic system. And also, many oil products are needed for literally for fueling the military machines, tanks, and other stuff. So this causes rising prices on petrol and other products inside Russia. They already cannot export it, and that's like one of the most important export things in Russia. And this also demonstrates their vulnerability to China, to Iran, to North Korea, who understand that Russia is not independent, that later they can take over some of its spheres of responsibility. So I think maybe one of the most important reasons is they want Ukraine to stop doing that. Because once again, and with winters coming to the Russian Federation, this may cause even more troubles. So perhaps they want to pause in that. Also, they are trying to manipulate public opinion, and I hate this term, Ukraine fatigue, because it's not like happening in Ukraine, what's happening. It's not like happening in Ukraine, it's happening to Ukraine, you know? We are not an ideal country, but before the start of Russia's invasion, we were living peacefully. We had our own troubles. We were solving them in not ideal Ukrainian way, but we did not cause you troubles in the European Union or in the North America. We were doing our own life. It was a normal life of a country promising democracy so close to the authoritarian borders of Russia. And they are trying to manipulate and to misinform so many countries with the messages that you have troubles in your economies, you have troubles with immigrants, you have troubles during your elections, all because of Ukraine. No, it's because of Russia breaking all the international agreements, violating all laws, invading an independent, actually the largest in Europe country. It's Russia to blame. It's not Ukraine. You don't have to be angry at us or tired with us that we are protecting ourselves. And once again, sacrificing Ukraine, this will repeat the mistakes of 1938 when people wanted to appease Hitler and decided to sacrifice, I don't know, maybe Czech Republic, maybe Poland.
And that's really interesting. But looking ahead, why do you think it's so important that Russia is held accountable? And also, what do you think Russia has up its sleeves next?
If Putin is not punished for blowing up Kakhovka Dam, targeting children's cancer hospital, committing war crimes and mass murders in Bucha, Irpin, Mariupol, killing thousands of civilians, breaking the international order, And if after all of that, we will negotiate with him, we will give up some Ukrainian territories, we will introduce some laws that Russia wants, why on earth would he stop, or similar regimes, if they literally have no consequences? They see it as a green light. Just have a look at the annexation of Crimea in 2014. Our weak response was one of the signs for Putin to continue. Nothing will happen. So definitely they manipulate and they want to cause this fatigue. I am also sure that they fuel troubles in many countries around the world. They will try to interfere in elections, cause various protests, strikes. You know, they are very good at observing the problems inside other societies, not inside Russia, but inside other societies. And we have to be careful. I was working with a great team of Suspilna Kultura Culture on a 6-series documentary about the great Russian lies, and we were analyzing how they spread Russian propaganda via cinema, sports, media, and what many people make a mistake, like a very common mistake, is that they always think that Russian propaganda is very primitive, something like crucified little boy by the Ukrainian Nazis. But no, they learn on their mistakes and they adapt their messages to the societies they are working in. And in the United States, they will use one messages that may not include Ukraine at all. Or, for example, somewhere in Scandinavian countries, they will say, oh, not enough money for your hospitals, you don't have something else, look at your ecological, and so on and so forth. They manipulate sensitive topics inside of the societies. So that's another thing that they want people to push Ukraine to negotiate. I think one of the reasons. We have to be honest, all the world is observing the elections. First, it was around the European Union. It's so bad, it's an election year on the planet. Now everyone is worried what will happen after the elections in the United States. So this is the time of chaos, the time of turbulence, and Russia always used that.
So, looking at Russia going forward, what's one thing that you think people should keep in mind when analyzing what Russia is doing or what Russia is promising? What's something that sticks out, knowing Russian history well, that we should consider when dealing with Russia?
Maybe it is a primitive description or metaphor, but it definitely describes Russia really well. Russia is a bully. And it acts like a classical bully, pretending to be very strong, like you have no chances to win, you have no chances to stop them, so you have to accept their rules. When it is very wrong to accept what a bully wants from you, because this will only lead to more troubles and so on and so forth. Russia is extremely fake. And it's just like the Soviet Union was. Behind this facade, there were poor people with not enough products, with not enough services and whatnot. And they were competing in the space race or elsewhere, when in reality they had lots of internal troubles. And we all remember this myth about the second strongest army in the world, when it turned out to be the second strongest army in Ukraine. And they report a lot of things according to this fake standards. For example, preparing one of my videos, I was surprised that like in 2023, Shoigu reported they had 1,000 new tanks. And in reality, only 90 of these tanks were produced. I mean, like brand new. And 900 others were actually old Soviet crap, taken from maybe literally the streets, because, you know, in Russia they have the sentiments, they put monuments of tanks or old aircraft and so on. So literally they have produced just 90 tanks. But if you read the newspapers and you are living somewhere in the Netherlands and you are used to trust your media sources, because if it's fake, they will have troubles, they will be charged, maybe they will be closed, people will cancel them. In Russia, it doesn't work like that. They tell whatever they want. Their Ministry of Finance will report whatever numbers Putin wants to the International Monetary Fund, and you will be reading, oh my God, nothing is happening, sanctions are not working. Once again, my friend subscribers introduced me to this term normalcy bias. When you live in a normal and healthy society and you judge other people's countries based on your standards, it is what made me believe Russia will not start a full-scale invasion. Like, I was smart enough to read analysis, listen to intelligence services, but it was so irrational. It was so crazy. But I forgot the main thing. Russia is crazy. Russia is irrational. So one of the greatest requests that I have to people, please always divide by 10 what Russia says they can do or what they have, because they are lying, and their citizens know that, but you don't know that. Living in a more or less healthy democracies, well, of course, all politicians lie a little bit. All people may exaggerate their success or else, but this is a little percentage. And in Russia, it may be 300. So don't make your conclusions that Russia is strong, it can continue fighting with Ukraine or destroy Paris based on what Putin, Peskov, Lavrov say. Because, once again, a very famous joke, how to tell a Russian is lying, his lips are moving.
Very good. Anna, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.